So the expansion's been out for about a week now, and I wanted to talk about toughness. Toughness is the stat that indicates how tough you are. It's supposed to indicate how survivable you are, how much damage you can take. It's supposed to be the system in which you measure your survivability throughout the tournament tiers, basically. And I think they introduced the toughness scaling back in season 11, and I remember there was a lot of confusion about it then. And I think after a week of playing the new expansion, it's easily been my biggest point of frustration. So before I get into, why it's so frustrating or, the problems that I've had with this particular stat, I want to preface, before I get into any of the negatives. The game itself, I've had a great time. I've spent this first week making my own character. I haven't looked up any build guides now, and that's also going to kind of play into what I'm talking about here, because there could be some stuff I'm missing, surely, but I think that there's still, I think a lot of what I'm going to say, isn't even contingent on me maybe not leveraging a certain defensive layer properly, because from my understanding, toughness is supposed to be a simplified way of just saying, like, hey, this is how tough you are, like, this is how much damage you can take, this is, this is, for lack of a better word, like, can you progress to the next tier with this level of toughness? I think earlier when they implemented it in previous seasons, they had like recommendations for toughness levels. I don't know if they have that again. I was looking for that earlier because it's frustrated me so much that I'm just like, am I not tough enough? Like, I don't know what's happening, because I've started investing into, my defensive layers as much as I can, because I've been getting one shot just randomly. And I'm like, okay, like, how tough do I need to be? And I go online and I start looking at other people's toughness scores, and their toughness scores are like, they're in the same tier as me, but like they have like a third of the toughness score that I have, or sometimes even less than that. And they're probably running into some of the same issues that I'm running into, but it just seems like with as much as I've invested in my defensive layers, like, I shouldn't be dying as much as I am. So I'm going to give just a quick breakdown of what kind of build I ended up landing on. I was looking into the skill tree, and I really wanted to just kind of come up with my own thing. I didn't want to like go and do whatever the meta build was. I wanted to kind of like try to figure something out for myself. And I landed on this Inferno Breath Metamorphosis build, also utilizing the Blazing Scream core skill for my downtime and also while I'm in the Metamorphosis state. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about here. This key, or this alternative, skill here, it does burn me for, a certain amount of my life, 8% of my life. But I also have, some things that are mitigating this to an extent. Like, casting a skill heals you for 2.8% of your life, double this bonus while injured. So in theory, my uptime, I'm healing while I'm casting skills or channeling skills for 3.8% of my life. So that's taking 3% off of that equation. And this is also something that's like not even in, I'm not in metamorphosis state all the time, because I am constantly having to drop out of it because I'm afraid I'm going to die or something. And then I also have other things here that are just giving me more defensive layers. Let's see, my other skill here, the Dark Prison, it fortifies me. So hitting enemies within Dark Prison fortifies you for 1% of your maximum life. So it's kind of like delayed life regen. And I also think I have some other stats here that kind of play into sustaining my life. I also have a very high health pool. Like whenever I get ramped up in my demon form with my talisman, my set talisman here, like my damage ramps up, and I also get like a shit ton of max life off of it. So I end up getting around like 90k to like 100,000 life, like somewhere in that ballpark. Um, and I have my other defensive layer here, which is when I maintain my summon, which I only have one summon here, which is the dog. Um, I get the Earthen Bulwark, which gives me barrier, and that's popping like constantly. So I have all these things stacking here, and this is my current layout. I have gone so far into this trying to figure out like what's happening here. And I mean, I'm getting deleted even when I'm not using that aspect and that metamorphosis trait, because I've switched over to the other trait where it doesn't drain your life. And I've tried this one. This one isn't as useful to me because I have the unique charm that's the aspect that transitions your demon summon skills into wrath. The wrath resource instead of the dominance resource. So that one's not as useful to me. But I've really played around with this a lot, and it always comes back to like, okay, like as high as I can get this number to go, there are things that are just they're one-shotting me, and it'll be during my dark prison uptime. It'll be during my fully ramped stage of my metamorphosis where I have like 100,000 life. I have my barrier up. I have fortification, and I have, not to mention that, I just have all this damage reduction just sprinkled throughout. 35 damage reduction from Tyrael's Might and other stuff like sprinkled throughout the tree. And the weekend from the Dark Prison that's supposed to lower the damage that's happening from the enemy. And I've seen this number, and it's another thing that I think I have an issue with is this is a hard thing to test. Like my specific build is kind of hard to test. I can't just go into the training ground and like really test the functionality, because my build kind of relies on ramping a little bit. Like I have to get it going to get those stacks, the demon stacks. So you take more damage in demons. This is another thing. There's going to be a lot of things that I say here that kind of seem like, well, like you have all these things like playing against you, but I promise when I say like, whenever I've converted all of these stacks, these demon form stacks, into just like the more damage portion of it, like it's anything. It's when I am in any state, it's like I'll have my toughness score up to like 5 million, and I'm just getting one tapped, and I'm not even getting that high into the progression. Like I haven't tried a Torment 100 yet, but I got up to Torment 95 and really struggled to get through it. And the damage wasn't really an issue. I was doing the damage just fine, but like I'm just dying. And it's just this stat, I don't know, it just doesn't seem extremely reliable. And like I said, there's people that have probably figured out some better defensive layers than me. I might not be leveraging certain things properly, but it just doesn't seem like a stat that I can 100% trust here for what I got going on. Like I try to, I'm trying to just like utilize the systems and the stuff that Blizzard is providing for me to get a good idea of like, what's going on. And like I said, like this number literally goes up to 5 million, and then I will be fighting like a pack of blue mobs in a dungeon, and they will just gut me down. And yeah, it feels very strange. I was really excited when I was making this build because um, it felt like I was doing like this life stacking thing, which is a cool thing. I haven't really seen a life stacking build in this game. When you're in Metamorphosis, your skill damage goes up by 1% every 1,000 bonus maximum life you have. And I was going to leverage that with the gloves that give you all the side updates, or all the side upgrades for free. And that also doesn't seem to be working. Like, I put that on and I look at my life total and it's not changing because it's supposed to give you 20% extra life. And yeah, just a lot of things just not working like they say they are. So well, the main thing that I'm talking about here is this toughness score, this specific issue with like, how is this number telling me how tough I am, or like what I can take? Because according to this readout here, I'm just in base without any extra defensive layers. I even just put this aspect on to increase my resistance, because that also kind of synergizes with this aspect here, which I will say that does seem to work. Whenever I threw this on, I put my damage went up quite a bit whenever I implemented that aspect. But when that toughness score goes up to like 5 million, it's just like there's just certain things that just do not care about that at all. And like I said, the main issue that I'm having right now is like, how is toughness determining like how tanky my build is? But I think that it's also an issue with. I think there's probably some bugs still happening with some of these aspects on the gear. Like, I think this doesn't seem to be working. Like, I have not seen. I don't know if I'm like reading this incorrectly. You gain 38% increased maximum life if you have not had more than one active demon in the last 5 seconds. So I've been looking at my life total. I've even not summoned I've not used my Blazing Scream. I've just like walked around with my my dog, to see if my life is jumping up. It does not jump up. So I think while this is an issue with like the reliability of the stat number that we're looking at, I think it's also like, I think some things just aren't working properly, and it's hard for me to tell what the main issue is. I don't know if it's like this number is fake, like it's not really indicating how tough I am. It's just not, maybe it's not accurate. There could be some synergies or some of the defensive stuff that I have enabled that just isn't working. It's not out of the question, honestly. And like I said, I want to say that there could be some things that I'm not doing correctly. That's always the case, but I have looked into this a little bit. I've looked at the forums. I've seen people talk about how certain aspects aren't working. So I'll leave it at that, honestly. I don't think there's much else to say. I think my biggest gripe so far, if I had to say within this first week, is the readability and the expectation of the aspects and this toughness score. Like, I look at the toughness score, it says 1.5 million in base form, 93.4 damage reduction from all sources. And to me, that seems like I should be pretty tough. Like, there should be things rarely killing me, but that's not the case. And then also, the synergies on the aspects just not working as intended. So, like I said, I've had a blast. And this is definitely a huge step up for Blizzard in the game itself. Like, it feels a lot better. The game does feel a lot better, but for me, that has been the biggest detracting experience. Is like not knowing what this score means, and when I read an item and it says it's going to do a thing and then it doesn't do the thing, that feels bad. But I'll leave it at that. I just kind of wanted to share my thoughts about it, see if anybody else is having those issues. Because I was sitting here and I was like, I really want to make this build guide, but I'm at the point now where I'm like, I don't feel comfortable moving forward with this build when like the synergies that I'm expecting to work are not working, and the thing that I'm like relying on is not giving me accurate depictions of what's happening. So, I'm curious to see if anybody else has had that issue or if anybody else is saying that. I know other people have talked about this a little bit. But curious to see what other people think and if they've had the same issue. Also, feel free to comment and tell me that maybe I'm misreading some of these things, or maybe I'm not leveraging something properly. That totally could be the case as well. But yeah, just my thoughts so far. Kind of like the biggest issue that I've had so far. Curious to see what everybody thinks. I probably going to re-roll into a different build. I don't think I'm going to play Warlock for the remainder, or I may swing back to it maybe later in the season. But this, I'm kind of burnt out on the Warlock right now after just going through all the testing that I've gone to try to make this build work. I don't feel like switching to like the meta builds or anything. I think I'm going to switch to a different class and see what the experience is like for there. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. If you enjoy these kind of breakdowns, let me know. Feel free to give me a like and subscribe. I hope everybody's having a great day, and I hope everybody's enjoying the expansion. See you next time.